Hey guys, welcome back. It's Mr. Isaacs again, knocking out all these notes today on our first snow day. Um, so let's keep on going. We just talked about the circulatory system, which is all about transporting blood around our body. That means transporting things that your cells need to survive around your body. Okay, so what are some of those things that we need? All right, the respiratory system is going to account for a major one. All right, and that's going to be oxygen. Okay, being able to get oxygen is super, super, super important for us. And so, not only getting that oxygen into our blood, but removing that carbon dioxide as well. I know in my classes I've talked about you get too much carbon dioxide in your body, you can't get rid of it. That is a big issue since homeostasis, or that keeping a healthy balance within our body, is really, really pivotal for us. All right, respiratory system. Main function. Well, we need to get oxygen, and we need to get oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. Okay. This happens between the blood. So that means the blood is going to travel to our lungs, which are going to do this job. And it's going to pick up oxygen, give CO2, and then it's going to go back to our heart, where it's going to be pumped to the rest of our body. Okay, so that other tissues around the body can get that oxygen. Okay, oxygen is needed for cellular respiration. That's how we get ATP, energy that we use to run our bodies. Okay, and so this is very, very important. Also, when we do cellular respiration, we produce carbon dioxide, and so we need to remove that waste. And so the lungs are going to be responsible for doing all that stuff. Okay, so let's keep on moving. We're going to have the respiratory system here. And so this is going to include basically our lungs, what protects our lungs, and what makes our lungs actually bring air in and push air out. Okay. And so the diaphragm is going to be the muscle that's going to bring air in and push it out. The lungs are going to be the thing that is going to transfer the oxygen into the blood and get the CO2 out. And the rib cage is going to just protect those lungs, because that's a very, 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 very important part of our body. Okay. And so we're going to breathe air into the nose. We're going to go to the back of the throat, which is the pharynx. Okay. The larynx is going to be our voice box. The trachea is going to be this hard tube that travels from our throat to our lungs. Okay. The windpipe, so to speak. The bronchs and the bronchioles are going to be parts of the lungs that are going to actually are going to be different webbing parts of the lungs that are going to get to the very smallest part, which is the alveoli, which are going to actually get oxygen to our blood and remove carbon dioxide. Okay, so the epiglottis actually is going to be a cover that goes over our windpipe, so we don't get food in there accidentally. And then we're going to talk about the diaphragm, which is going to get oxygen in and out of our body, as well as or just pump air in and out of our body. Okay, and it's going to do that by creating different pressure zones within our body. Okay, so let's start with the nose or mouth. Just like the digestive system, you need to know the pathway. All right, so the nose or the mouth. Okay, the nose is really, really important. Obviously, this slideshow isn't coming in super, super well, but I think we're going to be just fine. Okay, the nose is super important because it is actually going to be able to vet that air, or be able to make sure that air is not too hot, not too cold, not have a bunch of garbage in it. Okay, the nose is going to be act like a filter in order to get that air. So nose breathing is actually what you should be doing all the time. Okay, it is the healthiest and most efficient way to breathe. Okay, and so you should do that. The air is a little bit rough when we use our mouth, and so we just got to be a little bit careful, because you can dry out your mouth, you can dry out the back of your throat, you can actually hurt your lungs by breathing through your throat. Okay, it is very, very common, but nose breathing is the way to go. Okay, the pharynx is the throat region. This is the back of your throat. Okay, the back of your mouth. Okay, it has food and air in there. Okay, so this is where we mess up. We accidentally are trying to breathe while we're eating, and we open up that epiglottis, the little flap that's over the top of our trachea. Okay, and then food falls in there, and then we cough. Okay, that's not very fun. Okay, and so we just need to be very, very careful, because we don't want to choke. Okay, choking is when we actually block the pathway, the air pathway, and then we can't get air. Okay, so larynx, that's going to be your voice box. It contains your vocal cords, and also the Adam's apple. So if you're a boy, you can find the Adam's apple. That is going to be the larynx. The reason the Adam's apple appears is because of all the testosterone in boys. Okay. And so the Adam's apple will form and it makes your voice a little bit deeper as a guy. Okay. Usually, not always. Okay. The trachea, okay, is going to be our windpipe. Okay. It carries air to the lungs and out of the lungs. It's lined with cartilage rings. Remember, cartilage is like the beginning of hard bone. Compact bone. And so this is going to be really hard. You can feel it on your throat. Okay. It does this to make sure that the tube does not close and open. Okay. It's always open. All right. And it also is there to protect us. Okay. So the larynx is the very top part. It contains our voice box. Okay. To make those vibrations so that we can actually talk. And then the trachea is going to be the tube that goes all the way down to the lungs, where it's going to branch off and go into our right and left lung. Okay. We call these the bronchi. Okay. So they are tubes that branch off from the trachea into each lung. The bronchi are the biggest part. Okay. So you can see the primary bronchi. The secondary bronchi would be where it starts to branch off even more. And then we have the tertiary bronchi. Okay. The third branch, where we just keep branching off into smaller and smaller and smaller webs within our lungs. Okay, the bronchioles are the smaller tubes that branch out further into the lungs. So after we have the primary break, the secondary break, and the tertiary break, okay, now we get the bronchioles, which are these tiny, tiny, tiny little parts. Okay, and so this is really, really important because we need to eventually have some capillaries where we're going to do some transfer of oxygen and CO2. Okay, so the alveoli, okay, these little sacs within the lungs, they're tiny, 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 tiny. You can see these little bubbles. Okay, they look like little grapes maybe. Okay, these are the air sacs responsible for gas exchange in the blood. And so we're going to have a lot of capillaries around here, which are going to allow the blood that does not have any oxygen. Okay, remember pulmonary circulation. The oxygen is deoxygenized within the blood, so it doesn't have a lot. D means no oxygen. Okay, and so because there's a low amount of oxygen, okay, right here, there's a low amount of oxygen. So that means the high amount of oxygen when you breathe and in the alveoli are going to go high to low with the flow into your blood. And then it's going to go back to the heart where it's going to be sent to the rest of your body through systemic circulation. Okay. So all the magic happens in the alveoli. Okay. And then in order to get or inhale or exhale means X means to exit, or in goes into your body. The diaphragm is going to work, okay? It is a parachute-shaped muscle. You can see it's kind of shaped because everything below this is going to be in your digestive system, okay? A lot of your guts are right there, all right? And so we need a muscle that can still function, but can still fit in that area, okay? So it's a sheet of muscle under the lungs. And as it moves down, it contracts to bring air into the lungs, okay? It creates a low-pressure zone within your lungs, which allows for air to go from a high concentration outside of your body to a low concentration inside of your body. Okay. High to low with the flow once again. Okay. So we make a low pressure zone. And then when we exhale, we create a higher pressure zone inside our body and we force that air out. Okay. There's a lot of cool things you can watch this happen right here. Also, when you get the wind knocked out of you, what happens is you basically shifted. So you're trying to breathe out, but your diaphragm, the pressure is not what it should be. Okay, so when you're breathing out, you want to create high pressure inside your body so it'll breathe out of your body. Okay, but what happens is you messed up the combination of your diaphragm working with your lungs, and so it takes a while to reset the different pressures. Luckily, you'll be fine. Okay, it just is really, really scary because you feel like you can't breathe. Okay, so let's just go over our entire thing. Okay, we have our mouth. We can breathe through our mouth or our nose. Okay, it's going to go to the back to our pharynx, which is number 2, which is the back of our throat. The epiglottis is going to be over the top of our trachea, okay, which is going to protect our throat. The larynx, okay, not the pharynx. Pharynx is the back of our throat. The larynx is going to be that Adam's apple if you're a guy, or this first part of the trachea, which is going to contain your voice box, okay? Once the epiglottis lifts up and allows air to travel in, okay, into the trachea, which is covered in cartilage to protect it, okay, and to make sure it remains open at all times. Okay, once we branch down the trachea, it's going to branch into 2 and go into our right lung and our left lung. Okay, I say that because this person's facing us. Okay. So whichever one, you just make sure when you're doing diagrams to be specific, which is the right and which is the left. Okay. When we branch off, we're going to call these the bronchi. Okay. As they keep branching into smaller and smaller parts, okay, we call them bronchioles. Okay. At the end of these bronchioles contain these alveoli. These alveoli are going to be where the actual oxygen and CO2 is switched. Okay. Oxygen is brought into the blood and CO2 is sent out of the blood. Okay. In order for us to breathe in, the diaphragm needs to flex to bring the air in, and then it's going to relax to push that air out. And that's how it works, you guys. That's how it works. All right. We do this over and over again and without even thinking about it, because we need a ton of oxygen a day to keep ourselves alive. So I kind of already explained all these things, but basically the medulla oblongata, which is in your brain, senses the amount of CO2 in your body. And when it's too high, it's going to send a message to say, breathe, okay, to your body, okay? If you need a little review on everything that we've talked about so far, this is a great resource. Remember, this video will be in Schoology, and within this video, in the same folder, there should also be the notes that you can follow along with. So make sure to pause and rewind if you need to, or remember to use these videos as a review as we approach our test. Have a great day, and I will see you guys later. Peace.